new America, which is kind of awesome. But also the old America rears its head on the abortion issue. So today, once and for all, I will prove to you guys that the Bible is in fact pro-abortion. Okay, we're going to settle it on today's show. So that's in the second hour. All right, so let me get started here with the stories that we got for you. Okay, so President Trump is a goofball. I think that we all know that now. And he's a child, so he will tweet like a child. He will often admit things that he shouldn't admit in tweets, kind of like his son. And he'll end tweets with sad, baby, things along those lines. He will misspell things, he'll get facts horribly wrong. So obviously his staff from time to time makes an effort to take his tweeter away from him, as Rick Perry would say, speaking of unintelligent people. So they are not successful. And he doesn't like it. He doesn't like it when they try to take away his Twitter machine. So he assigned Mark Leibovich at New York Times Magazine, and he says, they want to take away my voice. They're not going to take away my social media. First of all, who's they? It's your own guys who are like, Mr. President, I'm sorry, but you're too dumb. And you keep getting yourself in trouble. And you keep admitting things you shouldn't admit, and it's getting all of us in trouble. Please, please put down the Twitter, right? He's like, no, you can't take that away, I like that one. Sad, baby. For the moment being, he does keep his account and he is still tweeting, and I think that is good news for America. Yes, it makes us look ridiculous because he's now our president, but at least he will probably admit to several different crimes accidentally on Twitter, and it'll help to get him out of office. Mark Leibovich, for his point of view, said, no, I think it leads to better transparency. Sure, of course it does, Mark. It does, that's the one thing it does do. We have better transparency into that mind, whether we like it or not. Whatever that mind shows us. Okay, Leibovich called it far more illuminating. It's true. Okay, now we move forward to very good news. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is the leader of ISIS. Wrong, was the leader of ISIS.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
It appears that, well, we didn't get him, the Russians did, but still, the world community has gotten al-Baghdadi. Now, 3 different sources reporting this. Let me give you what they are. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a reliable monitoring group based in the UK, claims they have seen, quote, confirmed information that ISIS chief Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi has been killed. Mediaite explains the Russian military claimed last month, I should say, that the jihadi leader most likely died after they launched an airstrike against an ISIS gathering near their headquarters in Raqqa. While those reports were never clarified by American intelligence, AFP, which is the main news outlet in France, picked up a statement from SOHR director Rami Abdel Rahman claiming al-Baghdadi's death was confirmed among the ISIS chain of command. Now, I'm going to double down that the American officials have not yet confirmed his death, but today someone else did, and that was ISIS. ISIS has confirmed that al-Baghdadi has passed away. Now, I had been saying for a long time, unfortunately, our adversary in al-Baghdadi was quite intelligent, and he did things that were bold and actually did play 3-dimensional chess to some degree, and that was terrible news, because you don't want an adversary like that, and that is why they were able to grab a huge chunk of land and renewable source of revenue for themselves in both Iraq and Syria, and caused all this damage worldwide. And I said that if he was taken out, likely ISIS would fall into disarray, because there's not a lot of other brilliant Muslim radicals running around. Fundamentalism doesn't often lead itself to great acumen in strategy, skills, and analysis of the facts on the ground. So Baghdadi now, if it is true that he is gone, I think it'll be an enormous setback for ISIS. I cannot overstate how big a setback that'll be. So now it's possible that this is an elaborate ruse by ISIS to pretend that he's dead when he's not, but I don't think the Russians would want to play along with that ruse, let alone the other human rights groups, et cetera, that are reporting it. So not 100% confirmed yet, but pretty close. And if that's true, that's pretty great news for the world. And I was very frustrated with the CIA because they do a lot of things wrong, and there are some things we need them to do right, such as find al-Baghdadi. Unfortunately, it appears they didn't, the Russians did. But I'll take it either way, and it's good for the world. Now, in other news related to ISIS, they have lost Mosul. That fell very recently to a combination of troops, mainly led by the Iraqi government, but Kurdish Peshmerga and some of our allies, such as they are in Syria, are also now besieging Raqqa, which is inside Syria and is the so-called capital of ISIS. But Mosul was a very important city in Iraq that ISIS had captured. Now the Iraqi government has recaptured it. And American leaders on the ground, military leaders on the ground saying, beseeching basically the Iraqi government to not make the same mistakes that it made in the past, which is to alienate Sunnis in Iraq and not to give them any voice in their government, which then leads to an uprising, which now US military leaders are warning could lead to an ISIS 2.0. So the leader of ISIS is dead, now long live the new leader. According to the reports, ISIS has not picked a new leader yet, but when we were in the old days of killing the number 3 guy in Al-Qaeda, you remember, or the number 2 guy, we would kill an endless slew of number 2 and number 3 guys in Al-Qaeda, and the problem would never go away, there'd just be a new one. In the case of ISIS, I think killing the number 1 guy is going to have a big impact. And then afterwards, Trump will take credit and go, see, I told you I'd take care of ISIS. The plan to retake Mosul had nothing to do with Donald Trump. Getting Baghdadi had nothing to do with Donald Trump, but you tried explaining those nuances to his followers once they put on their red hats. I think the red hat signals no thinking aloud here. Okay, hey, look, he's got a black hat. That might have meant the same thing. But in his case, he was unfortunately a smart tactician, but unfortunate for him, that didn't last long. So good news for the world today. Okay. I don't know if as a lib I'm allowed to celebrate anybody's death, but if I am, this is the moment for it. Okay, now let's go to Betsy DeVos. Betsy DeVos has a brilliant new idea. She's reconsidering some of the policies in the education department, and Title IX guidance on campus rape and sexual assault is among those. And so she's going to meet with some leaders who care about that issue. And she's decided to meet with leaders who also don't care about that issue, or care about it in a different way where they think it should be de-emphasized. Curious. So let's give you details on those meetings. Think Progress reports, after months of receiving requests for meetings from advocates for sexual assault survivors, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos has finally decided to sit down with them. Good news. But she's also meeting with groups that are critical of Title IX guidance on campus rape, some of which have histories of intimidating rape survivors and dismissing domestic abuse against women. Now, I'm sure that they would disagree with that characterization, but let me give you some of the details and you make up your own mind. The department reached out to National Coalition for Men, SAVE, that's Stop Abusive and Violent Environments, and Families Advocating for Campus Equality. Now, some of those groups sound reasonable. I mean, why wouldn't you want campus equality? Certainly progressives would. And some of what they do is not outrageous. So if someone has been falsely accused of rape, protecting that person is a good thing. And no one wants false accusations of anything, let alone something as important as rape. Now, the reality is that that does not happen very often. I'm going to give you the stats on it a little bit later. And there's a good argument to be made that some of these groups are not worried about just protecting innocent victims of false accusations, but think that the issues of campus rape and sexual assault are a little overdone. Okay, so let's dive into the details and figure it out together. The National Coalition for Men, which was founded in the 1970s, has a long history of what is known as men's rights activism. One of the group's chapters published the photos and names of women while calling them false accusers. Now, there, if it turns out that the whole thing was adjudicated and they went to court and it was shown that they are in fact false accusers, okay, I'm more worried about the guys who are falsely accused, and you want to have some protections for them, that's great. But publishing the pictures of those women, I don't know how necessary it is or how helpful it is, but you can make a case for it. I wouldn't do it. It's not a close case for me. But if you're in that group, I guess I get it. But did you really make sure that those were all adjudicated, or did you start putting up pictures of women who had rape accusations, some of which might have been true, and then you put their picture up as, false accusers? I mean, if you're gonna go down that road, which I would never go down because I think it's a dangerous and bad idea, you better make sure that you come correct. And are you sure the National Coalition for Men has made absolutely sure that all these cases are adjudicated? Let me assure you that I'm not positive about that. And look, the men's rights movement, I'm a man, right? So why would I be against men's rights? Because I'm not against men's rights, nobody is. Men already have a lot of rights. So see, the way that it worked was we had all the rights in the beginning, and then eventually it spread out to more and more people. In fact, it was, of course, as you know, propertied white men and then non-propertied white men, and the list goes on and on of the people who got rights. So it's not like men needed someone to protect them because, oh my gosh, they've been discriminated against for such a long time. Now, if the pendulum swung too far, and you could show a couple of cases here in this divorce proceeding, you see how it is no longer equal. Okay, that's a good conversation to have, and I've had that conversation. And as it turns out, men's rights groups don't really stop there. The more you get in the weeds, the uglier it gets. And talking about how women had this coming and that coming, and they've been taking away our rights forever. Taking away your rights? No, you have to show very specific examples. Otherwise, you're the ones who started with all the rights in the first place, and that includes me. Just read history, any history, but obviously some people are not enamored with facts. So now let's get to some of the other groups. In 2012, the group, let me make sure that I've got the right group here. This is referring still to the National Coalition for Men, okay? In 2012, the group supported the Republican House version of the Violence Against Women Act, which removed protections for LGBTQ people in crisis centers. The group has been very litigious when it notices events specifically designated as for women. Its members sued a strip club for letting women in for free during its ladies' night, and sued a company called Chick CEO for not letting men into a women's networking event. Look, I'm not sure I want to bust into a women's networking event, but if you thought that the CEO of that company and all the executives were women and men did not have a right, did not have a good way to advance in that company, as women have had that problem in many industries for a long, long time, but it happened in that particular case and you want to pursue that, I understand. You'll have to prove your case in court, etc. But now we're getting into suing strip clubs for ladies' nights. I mean, my conservative friends, wouldn't you call that a snowflake? Like you were so bothered that you couldn't get free night at the strip club and they only had it for ladies' night? You don't see the logic in that? And you say, oh no, I gotta have equality at the strip club. Men have never had equality at strip clubs, and now we need it. You see, when you make a case like that, it makes everybody think you're a jackass. Okay, certainly makes me think that. And I suspect a large portion of the audience. But actually the one that's most harmful is going after LGBTQ rights. If you're for men, why do you care, gay men, straight men? I thought you were for equality. All of a sudden it looks like you're not for equality, and so you've got other agendas. So now let's look at the reality of the stats here. Researchers estimate that somewhere between 2 and 10% of rape allegations are false, but even among those who are falsely accused, it's rare for men to end up in prison as a result. So that doesn't mean that if you're in that 2 to 10% that what happened to you isn't outrageous. It is, man. Being falsely accused of rape is a terrible, terrible thing. But is it an overwhelming problem that needs to be addressed at the same level as actual rape and sexual assault? Well, I want the appropriate resource to go into both problems, but appropriate also means proportionate. So if you call that 50-50, then the stats don't back it up. In fact, let me give you the other side. For students who were found responsible for sexual assault, only 30% were actually expelled, according to a 2014 Huffington Post analysis of data from over 100 schools. So you have a huge problem of campus rape and sexual assault, and most of the people who do it unfortunately get away with it. And there's not enough resources to track down and make sure that there's justice in that system. On the other hand, you have a small percentage of people who are falsely accused of rape, and they hardly ever actually go to court and go to prison. So it doesn't make the individual cases any less unjust, but is that the same scope of problem as the sexual assault in the first place? No, the numbers show you that it is not. So just have a sense of proportion here. Now we go to the National Coalition for Men president. That's Harry Crouch, president of National Coalition for Men. He has also vocally blamed survivors for the abuse they faced. In a 2014 interview with Pacific Standard, Crouch defended Ray Rice, a former football player who was indicted in 2014 on third-degree aggravated assault for an incident involving his then fiancée. Now, before I go to his defense, you guys remember that incident? And we showed the video here. I don't want to keep re-showing it, but he knocks out his fiancée. At the time they were fiancé, now they're married. And it is a brutal looking video. And then he drags her out of the elevator, leaves her shoe there. After he knocks her out, he doesn't even look at her for a long time. I mean, it is stomach turning violence. But no, Harry Crouch's vision of that, or perspective on that, was vastly different. He said, I'm not saying he's a good guy, but if she hadn't aggravated him, she wouldn't have been hit. They would say that's blaming the victim, but I don't buy it. What's there not to buy? I mean, you could disagree on what happened, although the videotape is incredibly clear. But when you say she aggravated him, you're blaming the victim. There's nothing to buy or not buy. You could say you're justified in blaming the victim. You would be among a really, really small minority of people who think that. But you can't say you didn't blame the victim because you just blamed the victim. So the more you get in the weeds, the more you get a sense of where these guys are actually going. And it is not good news, man. It's in a really, really bad direction. So now our education secretary is like, oh yes, 50-50. I meet with people who suffered rape and sexual assault and the people who care about them. And I meet with people who think that that is a made up issue and that they kind of had it coming a little bit sometimes in some assault cases. Okay, well, when you look into the history of Betsy DeVos, you realize that we shouldn't be surprised by this. Why we fought her, because we didn't think she was right for that role. Well, it turns out the Dick and Betsy DeVos Family Foundation made donations totaling $25,000 to Foundations for Individual Rights and Education, which has shared articles dismissive of sexual assault survivors. One read, unfortunately, much of the feminist war on rape has conflated sexual assault with muddled, often alcohol-fueled sexual encounters that involve miscommunication. You call it rape, I call it miscommunication. They gave money to that cause. So now are you surprised that Betsy DeVos is meeting with people who are for men's rights to protect men from the miscommunication that happens when they're in what they admit are alcohol-fueled sexual encounters? Look, people being drunk and having sex old as time. When someone is knocked out unconscious from drinking, yes, that's rape. And that is not a 50-50 question. That is a legal question and it is settled. The fact that we are now relitigating this at the Department of Education is horrific. Okay, we got to take a break. When we come back, the Trump Jr. saga. Oh, Fredo, what have you done?
I want to do a quick announcement before we get onto the stories because I think it's important and I want to encourage you guys to go. All right, so TYT will be at Politicon this year. The dates are July 29th and the 30th. And I'm actually extremely excited. In the past, when I've done Politicon events, it's always been panels. Last year I did that panel with a number of anti-Bernie Sanders people, and of course it was a lot of fun because I was the only one on there that supported Bernie. But this year we're gonna be debating people. debates are gonna happen.
Can I just say, if you missed Politicon last year, that was a mistake, because Anna's panel alone was worth the price of admission, because they love balance. They love talking to the press about balance, right?
Right.
But all of a sudden, there was only one Bernie Sanders supporter and wall-to-wall Hillary Clinton supporters.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Including a lot of the people you see on TV. And she mauled. The entire crowd was on your side. But look, it's not just that you kicked ass. It's not that just the crowd. All right, back on the Young Turks. I don't have time for emails. Let me just read you one. Lauren says, I don't know what we'll do if Donnie Tiny Hands stops treating Twitter like it's his diary. Dear diary, today I met Vlad. Sigh. Mariah, I lied. The second one. Mariah Hayashi says, let's see if Donald Trump tries to take credit for the death of the ISIS leader. Are you kidding me? Of course he's gonna take credit for it. I'm shocked he hasn't yet. He just sent out one tweet about ISIS not doing well. We got big wins against ISIS. So believe me, that kind of nonsense coming in a little bit. Count out to it. Okay, so let's go to the big story here about Donald Trump Jr. Yesterday, we reported to you that Donald Trump Jr. Had a meeting with a lawyer that was connected to the Kremlin, and he did something strange. He kind of admitted that he was looking for information about Hillary Clinton's campaign. But if you're getting it from a foreign source, that might be illegal, and especially if it's stolen, that would be a different crime and open yourself up to a lot of issues. But today, we found out what those contacts actually were. And that's because Donald Trump Jr. himself released those emails. Whoa, that's really interesting. He said to everyone, in order to be totally transparent, I'm releasing the entire email chain of my emails. So, well, you might look at that and go, well, I guess he's got nothing to hide. You'd be wrong, because it turns out he shouldn't have released these emails. Now, he didn't do it voluntarily. Right now, the Trump administration is all over TV going, he's totally transparent. Did it on just out of the goodness of his heart. No, the New York Times already had the emails. They were already printing a story about it, and they said, look, here's what your emails say. Is it true or not true? This is after he first denied that he ever had the meeting. Then the second line was, it was just about adoption. And then when he found out, oh, shoot, they know what the meeting was about. He's like, fine, I was trying to get dirt on Hillary Clinton, but there's nothing wrong with that. That's not true, there is something wrong with that. Now, finally, he's like, all right, here's the emails. Now, remember yesterday he tweeted out, obviously, I'm the first person on a campaign to ever take a meeting to hear info about an opponent. Went nowhere, but had to listen. See, you schmuck, you're not supposed to admit that. Yes, you can go and try to get opposition research on people. Of course, that's a normal part of a campaign, but not from a foreign source. And on top of that, one that, how else would they have gotten it but stealing it? So, and it is not normal procedure. For example, Al Gore's team in 2000 got mailed a tape of George Bush's practice for the debates. They had the whole thing, and they could have looked at it. I mean, that's beautiful opposition research, and prepared better for the debate. Well, they didn't, because they thought this must be stolen, so they turned it over to the FBI. That's how you're supposed to deal with stolen material, or things that you reasonably believe could have been stolen. Instead, fools rush in, or in this case, fools Russian. Anyway, he's like, oh, you got good stuff from the Russians? All right, let's do it. Hey, don't take my word for it. I'm about to read you his emails. Okay, so the guy who's the intermediary here is a guy named Rob Goldstone. He lives in the UK. He helped with a Miss Universe pageant, and he hooked up Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr. with some of his Russian contacts before, and that is exactly who he's going to refer to here. It is a family that's very well connected in Russia. The son is the pop singer, and then the dad in that family is a real estate mogul. So the son's name is Emin Agalarov, and then his dad's name is Aras, I believe. So that's your context for these emails. So Goldstone emails Donald Trump Jr. and says, Emin, the pop star guy, the younger guy, just called and asked me to contact you with something very interesting. The Crown Prosecutor of Russia met with his father, Aras, there it is, this morning, and their meeting offered to provide the Trump campaign with some official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary and her dealings with Russia and would be very useful to your father. Now, Rob Goldstone, also a clown, of course, he deals with the Trump family, so there is no such thing as the Crown Prosecutor of Russia. There is a title that's similar to that in the UK, that's why he assumed that that's what it was called in Russia. It's not called that, but that is not relevant. What he's saying to Donald Trump Jr. is, I've got the top prosecutor in Russia who's going to give you official documents that the Russians have. Any person that has any sense, I mean, let's put aside morality for a second, and also doesn't want to break the law, would immediately go, wait, I am not going to take information from the Russians on my opponent that is potentially very illegal and obviously not the right thing to do. Let me go turn this in. Don goes, that sounds great. Okay, so hold for that. Goldstone further clarifies, this would incriminate Hillary and her dealings with Russia and would be very useful to your father. This is obviously very high level and sensitive information, but is part of Russia and its government support for Mr. Trump. Now, I know there's still some out there who are like, there's no evidence that it was connected to Russia, except for the fact that he just said, it is connected to Russia and it's to help your father. But hold, let's be fair to Donald Trump Jr., those are just emails he received. What did he reply back? Quote, if it's what you say, I love it, especially later in the summer. Oops, there you go. So here is Donald Trump Jr. saying, if you have official documents from the Russians, I would like to collude with you, and it is to help with my father's campaign, as you wrote in the email. If it is as you say in the email, I would love it. Does it have to get any clearer? Like if they were trying to frame themselves, they couldn't have made it any clearer. Right? What did I tell you as to why the whole Trump clan was gonna get caught? Because they're too stupid to do a cover-up. I mean, who writes emails like this? Like, would you like to meet with the Russians and take their documents, God knows where they got them, and use it against Hillary Clinton to help your father? Well, yes, I would. Okay, now whether that collusion is illegal is a question we're gonna get to in a second, but it is collusion. There is no question about that. So Goldstone also wrote in one of the emails, Don, hope all is well with Emin, the guy we were talking about before. Emin asked that I schedule a meeting with you and the Russian government attorney who's flying over from Moscow for this Thursday. I believe you are aware of this meeting and so wondered if 3 p.m. or later on Thursday works for you. I mean, you can't write it up any better. Remember, Don, it's a Russian government lawyer and I know you are aware of this meeting. And of course, Trump Jr. responds, yes, but can we make it 4 o'clock? Jesus, man. So now they're saying, oh, maybe the Democrats set us up. So let me get this right. The Democrats are playing 3-dimensional chess so that they would lose the election? Well, knowing the Democrats, maybe they are. Okay, only the Democrats would do that. But even so, if they were, hey, you schmuck, don't say yes, I would love to do something illegal. So is it illegal? Well, Richard Painter, former ethics lawyer for George W. Bush, said if he intended to get illegally stolen private information from the Russians, it was illegal for him to attempt to do so, just like buying stolen goods from a known fence. Now, in this case, his main defense, which is not a defense at all, is, well, I thought it was a Russian government lawyer and I thought they were gonna give me really good opposition research on my opponent and help meddle in this election. But as it turned out, they didn't have really good information for me, so I was annoyed at the meeting because it turns out she just wanted to talk about policy. And we weren't talking about policy at that point. That didn't make it any better, it might have made it worse, right? Say, no, I was only interested in like the incriminating stuff. Policy, I wasn't there for a policy meeting. Okay, so now will they be able to prove in court that he had the intent to receive stolen goods, and that he involved Jared Kushner, who was also at the meeting, and Paul Manafort, who was the campaign manager for Trump at that time, and whether you could prove all 3 of them had the intent to receive stolen goods? That's a good open question. We'll see you in court and try to figure it out. You know what comes before court though? Handcuffs. Anyway, now there's a second legal problem that he has with this. Rick Hassan, who's an election law expert, says there's 2 big questions on whether he broke campaign finance laws. Are knowledge, it was that it was a foreign source, and they explain now credible if last night's New York Times story is correct, as well as if the information being provided counts as anything of value for purposes of the law. So let me explain that. So did he know that it was a foreign source? Now there's no question because he himself has admitted, yes, these are the emails, I knew that it was a Russian foreign source. So check on the first part of the test. The second part of the test is not whether the incriminating information that he received was great and was used against Hillary Clinton. No, the question is it anything of value, meaning is it worth anything? Does it have monetary value, okay? So, well, again, even if you weren't clear on where the source is, again, the email from Goldstone said, this is obviously very high level sensitive information, but is part of Russia and its government support of Mr. Trump. And of course, Donald Trump Jr. famously replied, I love it, to that email. Now, on to whether just giving information has monetary value? Well, it depends on the kind of information. If you could Google it on your own, no, that has no monetary value. But if it is other kinds of information, we already have rulings on that. There's a 1990 ruling by the Federal Election Commission, and it reads like this, and I'll read it to you and then I'll explain. They explain that in that case, if, however, Mr. Hochberg imparts poll result information to you or anyone else working for your campaign, including any data or any analysis of the results, or if he uses the poll information to advise your campaign on matters such as campaign strategy or creating media messages, such poll information will constitute an in-kind contribution from Mr. Hochberg to your campaign and an expenditure in an equal amount by your committee. Meaning, look, he spent money on that poll. If he gives you the information from that poll that he spent money on, that is a contribution to your campaign. So if in this particular case, if the Russians were gonna give you information and you thought they were gonna give you information that they spent money acquiring, and presumably they would have had to spend some sort of money, either bribing someone on the inside or paying hackers, etc. Well, then you got information that has value and you have broken a campaign finance law. So look, you might look at all that and say, when you go to court, you got a good case, but you're really gonna have to lay out here intent and what Trump knew and didn't know. But boy, did he help your case by releasing the emails and admitting himself that yes, I went to go meet with people I thought were Russian officials to get stuff that would help our campaign, but as it turns out, I couldn't finish the criminal act. He didn't say it in that last part, he didn't say in so many words, so I just want to be clear about that. But it turns out you don't need to finish it for it to be a criminal act. Anyway, I am very much looking forward to a judge sorting this out. What do you think? Does he look better in orange or do we go classic? You know, make America great again and go with the white and black stripes for the prison outfit. Look, if he was a regular person, one of you guys out there, you think you would get arrested for this? Of course. The only reason you wouldn't arrest somebody with this amount of overwhelming evidence that they handed you on a silver platter is if they have a silver spoon in their mouth. And they go, I mean, my daddy's president. Can't I just get away with illegal stuff? The answer to that is supposed to be no in a democracy. We'll find out what the real answer is in a little bit, apparently. Okay, so that's the essence of the story. Now, let's have some fun, okay? I'm already having fun. Okay. So Donald Trump Jr., now we know, met with people he believed to be Russian government officials who were gonna give him official documents, and said he was really looking forward to that meeting, that he would love it. But at the time, he had claimed that, oh my God, these allegations that we would meet with the Russians is outrageous. Hold for it, because I'm gonna show you the video. Now, this video comes more than a month after he had already met with the Russian lawyer. He already knows he met with the Russians, and it's not just him. Paul Manafort, the campaign manager, was at the meeting. Jared Kushner, who's now a top advisor to the president, was at the meeting, a top advisor to the president as he was running his campaign at the time, when he was candidate Trump. So you've got three big honchos of the campaign that met with the Russians. Donald Trump Jr. already knows that, and now we know it as a fact. Nonetheless, he goes on television, has this interview with Jake Tapper. Now listen to how many times he pretends to be outraged and calls these allegations absolute lies. Here, let's begin.
He suggested that experts are saying that Russians were behind both the leak, the hacking of the DNC emails and their release. He seemed to be suggesting that this is part of a plot to help Donald Trump and hurt Hillary Clinton. Your response?
Well, it just goes to show you their exact moral compass. I mean, they'll say anything to be able to win this.
Russian collusion in order to hurt Hillary? They'll say anything to be able to win this. Rob Goldstone email. This is obviously very high level and sensitive information, but is part of Russia and its government support of Mr. Trump. Response by Donald Trump Jr. I love it. That is before he did the interview. I'm not anywhere near done. Here's another one.
I mean, this is time and time again, lie after lie.
Lie after lie, us meeting with the Russians. This is obviously very high level and sensitive information, but as part of Russia and its government support of Mr. Trump, I love it. Keep it going.
You know, his house cat at home once said that this is what's happening with the Russians. It's disgusting. It's so phony.
It's so phony. It's disgusting. The idea that we would meet with Russians. Goldstone, this is obviously very high level and sensitive information, but as part of Russia and its government support for Mr. Trump, Donald Trump Jr., I love it. Keep it going.
I watched him bumble through the interview. I was able to hear it on audio a little bit. I mean, I can't think of bigger lies.
Can't think of a bigger lie. Rob Goldstone, this is obviously very high level and sensitive information, but as part of Russia and its government support for Mr. Trump, I love it. To say that we would work with the Russians, I can't think of a bigger lie. I can think of a bigger lie, maybe the one you're telling right now. I'm not done, keep it going.
That exactly goes to show you what the DNC and what the Clinton camp will do. They will lie and do anything to win.
They will lie and do anything to win. Rob Goldstone, this is obviously very high level and sensitive information, but as part of Russia and its government support for Mr. Trump, Donald Trump Jr., I love it. I will do anything to win. You got secret information that the Russians have. I will work with our adversaries. I will take however they procure that information, stolen or otherwise, and I will use it in my campaign. Can you believe what they would do to win an election and the lies they would tell? Keep it going.
It's a rigged system, it's disgusting, and the people should be fed up, because when I heard it, I certainly was.
He was just fed up with it. What a rigged system he's got. This is obviously very high level and sensitive information, but as part of Russia and its government support for Mr. Trump, I love it. I think I have one more.
I don't mind a fair fight, but these lies and the perpetuating of that kind of nonsense to try to gain some political capital is just outrageous, and he should be ashamed of himself.
Outrageous, should be ashamed of himself. Email sent to Donald Trump Jr. This is obviously very high level and sensitive information, but as part of Russia and its government support for Mr. Trump, Donald Trump Jr., I love it. I believe that is working with the Russians. And certainly, Donald Trump Jr. had every intention to meet with the Russians to get whatever information they had about Hillary Clinton from whatever sources and however they procured that. And he would go to any lengths to win, legal or not. And that's not me saying it, that's him saying it in emails he released himself, saying he loved the idea of working with the Russians to get Hillary Clinton, no matter how they got the information. And then he goes on television going, the idea that we would meet with Russians and collude with them to get information about Hillary Clinton, it is so phony and disgusting. How dare they? Well, we now have an excellent idea of who is in fact phony and disgusting. We'll be right back.
I want to do a quick announcement before we get onto the stories because I think it's important and I want to encourage you guys to go. All right, so TYT will be at Politicon this year. The dates are July 29th and the 30th, and I'm actually extremely excited. In the past, when I've done Politicon events, it's always been panels. Last year I did that panel with a number of anti-Bernie Sanders people, and of course it was a lot of fun because I was the only one on there that supported Bernie. But this year we're gonna be debating people. Debates are gonna happen.
Can I just say, if you missed Politicon last year, that was a mistake, because Anna's panel alone was worth the price of admission, because they love balance. They love talking to the press about balance, right?
Right.
But all of a sudden, there was only one Bernie Sanders supporter and wall-to-wall Hillary Clinton supporters.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Including a lot of the people you see on TV. And she mauled. The entire crowd was on your side. But look, it's not just that you kicked ass. It's not that just the crowd was on your side. It's that if the crowd, even if it's unfair because the crowd is all Bernie Sanders, then maybe you should have a couple of Bernie Sanders panelists, right?
Right.
But they didn't need it because they had Anna.
Well, and it was a fun discussion, and I really enjoyed it. But this year is also going to be a lot of fun. We're going to get involved in a number of debates. Cenk, who are you debating?
Oh boy, here we go. Buckle up, everybody. You asked for it, you're going to get it. Ben Shapiro. Okay.
Bloop, 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 bloop. All right.
Right wingers have been asking for quite some time. Come and see.
All right, and I will be debating Ann Coulter.
Damn.
Ann versus Anna. Anna versus Ann. It's gonna be fun. I can't wait. And Hassan will also be there, and he is also debating someone who is a millennial who is very much against millennials. Like that's his whole shtick. So that should be a lot of fun as well.
That ought to be great. Woke Bay versus Sleepy Bay.
Anyway, you guys can get your tickets by going to politicon.com/TYT. Politicon.com/TYT. It takes place in Pasadena, California. We really hope to see you guys there, so definitely check it out.
And if you're watching this as a video on YouTube or Facebook, we'll have the link down below for you guys. Back on the Young Turks. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur. Finally, we're going to find out maybe Cenk's. So Michael Napen writes in, with all this happening, Democrats will still lose 2018 and 2020. Left to their own devices, I'm afraid they would. Luckily, they won't be left to their own devices. Go to justicedemocrats.com/win and let's show them how to do it right. Ben Peck writes in, I understand why Trump looks at Ivanka as a smart kid, or more accurately, the dumb one. Ben, actually, I've been saying that for a long time. I said, look, if these two knuckleheads, Beavis and Butthead, I mean Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump, got outshined by their sister, knowing what Donald Trump thinks about women in general, oh man, he named the kid Donald Trump Jr. and he still won't trust him with anything, right? His sister, who's constantly getting all the roles on Apprentice, the better jobs. Hey, I'm going to the White House. This is really important. I can't bring the knucklehead. I'm going to bring Ivanka, right? Even Donald Trump thought he was stupid. That's how stupid he is. All right, anyway. Matthews presumably writes in, the answer in a democracy is he would be arrested. We are finding out now if we are in a democracy based on if he gets arrested. So good point there. Hashtag TYT Live to talk to us during the show. The show is live 6 to 8 p.m. on tytnetwork.com. Okay, so Now, speaking of which, let's go to Donald Trump Sr., okay? So Donald Trump Jr. now has admitted through his emails, publishing his emails, that a friend of his reached out to get him to meet with Russian government officials, as the email stated, and Donald Trump Jr. said, "I love it," in order to get information about Hillary Clinton. Now, I want to give you a quick timeline here, and then I'm going to show you a video of what Donald Trump Sr. knew. So June 3rd, 2016 is when Donald Trump Jr. receives the first email. On June 7th, Trump Sr. promises a big speech about Hillary Clinton. I'm going to show you that video in a second. And then on June 9th, Trump Jr. meets with a Russian lawyer. Now, when Trump Jr. meets with a Russian lawyer, he finds out that she really didn't have any incriminating evidence on Hillary Clinton. She wanted to talk about policy, according to Donald Trump Jr., and so he was not interested in it. He was looking for incriminating evidence about Hillary Clinton. That is what he thought he was going to get on the 3rd. Now let's go to the speech that Donald Trump gave between the 3rd and the 9th. So that's and we'll get a sense of whether he knew that some people in his campaign, including his campaign manager, Paul Manafort, were gonna go have that meeting with the Russian lawyers where they thought they were gonna get really good stuff on Hillary Clinton. And this is before they found out that they didn't get it. So watch what he says.
I am going to give a major speech on probably Monday of next week. And we're going to be discussing all of the things that have taken place with the Clintons. I think you're going to find it very informative and very, very interesting.
So probably on Monday, depending on how the meeting goes with Junior and Manafort and Kushner, right? So we're going to tell you all the things that happened to Hillary Clinton. Later, we would find out that they didn't really have any of those incriminating information because they were counting on the Russians giving it to them. Now, that was, by the way, before the email leaks. So that meeting didn't prove to be fruitful, but later the Russians apparently did have DNC emails and just leaked them to the public. And so they wound up getting some incriminating information about Hillary Clinton after all, but it was done not through that meeting, but through public revelations. So now, that is just one piece of evidence as to what Donald Trump Sr. might have known. You would probably need more evidence than that, but it is an interesting data point. Okay, that's all. We'll let you start making the judgments on your own, and then one day maybe Robert Mueller will get to make those judgments, and then a judge. Okay, so now we're moving forward. Oh, good, 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 nice, nice. I love that graphic. Okay, okay. So Donald Trump Jr., Donald Trump Sr. Well, it is a tough question as to who's got more issues with intelligence. Let's put it that way. Although the graphic puts it a little harsher, and so will our poll in a second. So hold for that. But to give you the context, now you know all the crazy things that Donald Trump Sr. has said. That make you question his intelligence. Things like, nobody knew healthcare was this complicated. Nobody knew it. I just discovered it. And nobody knew North Korea was complicated. No, you schmuck, we all knew it was complicated. Let alone the 3rd grade reading level that he has, let alone the fact that now they've got his presidential daily briefings not just down to a page, they had it with a page with pictures and graphs. Now it's down to tweet length explanations for him. So that's the dad. On the other hand, we have the son, and we found out the son bumbled into a meeting with the Russians going, oh yeah, I'd love to get secret information that the Russian government has and use it in the campaign, right? So now, let's find out if White House officials are frustrated by that. So they talked to the Daily Beast, and they said, this is the sum of all fear stuff. It's what we've all been dreading. Now, they've been dreading it for a number of reasons. One, because maybe some of them already knew that they had colluded with the Russians. And maybe it's because they knew they had a time bomb, an intellectual time bomb with Donald Trump Jr. on their hands. So here are some devastating quotes. The series of revelations surrounding Trump Jr.'s communications with Russian officials have damaged his standing within the president's political inner circle. Now that is an understatement, given what comes next. As the Daily Beast reported on Sunday, opinion of Trump's eldest son among some of Trump's senior aides, both past and present, is vanishingly low. So their opinion of him is already vanishingly low, barely exists. this made it even worse. Okay. Since the campaign, a popular behind-his-back nickname from Trump Jr. among 3 advisors has been Fredo, referring to Fredo Corleone, the insecure and weak failure of a son in The Godfather series who ends up causing major damage to the family. Ah, Fredo indeed. Okay, those are not my words. Those are people that work for Donald Trump inside the White House. Okay, they say over the past week, one senior White House official and a former top Trump campaign aide both independently and bluntly described the president's son as an idiot. I can't get enough of this story. All right, so by the way, they noted while they wrote that article, as of noon Tuesday, he had yet to tweet out, Donald Trump Sr. had yet to tweet out a single defense of his eldest son. And it's not like he's shy about tweeting, and in that time, he'd been tweeting about many things. Finally, a tweet arrived, or a statement arrived from Donald Trump Sr. Saying, my son is a high quality person, and I applaud his transparency. So nothing defending him on the Russian allegations at all, and that is not a usual Donald Trump tweet. Usually it comes in with, oh, everybody else is sad and they're all babies and everything is phony and fake and my son is awesome and he's the smartest guy. No. Somebody wrote this for him and it's, boy, it is a really weak defense, which is he's high quality and at least he's transparent. It's almost a way of saying, at least we now all know how stupid he is. It used to just be a family secret. Okay, so with that background, we bring you a very important poll at the Young Turks. Who is dumber, Donald Trump or Donald Trump Jr.? So go to tytnetwork.com/stupid. And this is not an easy contest, man. I know the young son's a knucklehead and he's so stupid, his dad thinks he's stupid. Okay, on the other hand, it is hard to get less bright than Donald Trump. So, this is gonna be the thriller in Manila. Okay, they probably both think, oh, why? Are we gonna be fighting inside an envelope? And by the way, we had to use tytnetwork.com/stupid because we've already done a version of this poll. Who's dumber, Donald Trump or George W. Bush? That one was tytnetwork.com/dumb. By the way, the results are overwhelming. Over 21,000 people voted in that poll. The poll's still up, you can still vote. Maybe you can swing these results, but for the moment being, 79.8% of people saying, no, Trump is even dumber than Bush. Bush, I remember when you were the standard bearer for stupid. It's been a long time, and a whole new group of Republicans have come in to replace you. Now it's senior versus junior. Can't wait to see how this turns out. Can't wait. tytnetwork.com/stupid and dumb. Go ahead, vote on both. All right. So I have one last story related to all of this, and that's we go to Yoho, okay? Representative Ted Yoho, not one of the brightest bulbs in Congress. He said many outrageous and silly things in the past. He's a Republican from Florida. He's going to try to add to that pantheon of ill-advised commentary by weighing in on this Donald Trump Jr. controversy. Let's watch.
You believe it was appropriate for Donald Trump Jr. to take a meeting with a Russian national who promised to provide damaging information to him and his associates involving Hillary Clinton?
Do I think it's appropriate? I think I probably would have done the same thing. I mean, it's opposition research, and anybody that's been in an election, you're always looking to get the upper hand. Keep in mind, she wasn't an official for the Russian government the way I understand it. She's a lawyer, a Russian lawyer, and if somebody comes to us and says, hey, we've got information on an opponent, yeah, I think that's an appropriate thing to do.
Just a side note here on how funny Wolf Blitzer is. He's like, I'd have done the same thing. It's totally illegal. And Wolf's like, like a little reaction, like, really? You would have done the same thing? Anyway, so yes, if you take anything of value from a foreign source during a campaign, that is illegal. Now, unless the Russians came to him with like, oh, I don't know, we Googled it. Googling it is free. you could have Googled it too. And here's the stuff we have on Hillary Clinton, old articles from the New York Times. That would not have been illegal because that they can get for free on Google. But anything else where they would have to spend money to procure information on Hillary Clinton, if it is handed over to them from a foreign source, yes, would be illegal. And going to get, and let alone if they thought it was stolen, then it breaks several different laws. And Yoho comes in here and goes, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Somebody came to me with Oppo research and they were the Russians, I'd have taken it. Okay, it's okay to do opposition research. That is very normal. It is not normal to get it from an outside source like a foreign country. That is not normal, it is not acceptable, and it is not legal. And he says, well, I understand that she turned out to be not connected to Russians. Actually, she is connected to a lot of the people in the higher ups connected to Putin, but at the time, in the emails, Goldstone tells Donald Trump Jr. she is with the Russian government. He says, I love it. That intent is more important than what she actually wound up giving to him. All right, one more from Yoho.
If someone like that, a foreign national, came to an American with obviously close contacts to the then soon to be Republican presidential nominee, that person should have contacted the FBI about that information. Do you think that was necessary?
I think probably going forward, that may be what happens, especially in this case where Donald Trump's the president now. But going back, you have to put yourself back at that time frame. At that time frame, I think it's perfectly appropriate for what he did.
In other words, we didn't think he was really going to win. And so they're just trying like hell to win. And you break a couple of laws when you're running for president. Is that a big deal? And then once you're president, I guess you shouldn't continue to break the law. Wow. Thank you, legal expert Ted Yoho. But another aside, I can't help myself. Has Wolf Blitzer ever shown any emotion? Ever? Okay, well, shouldn't they have turned it into the FBI? Anyways, by the way, the correct answer is yes, they should have turned it into the FBI. When the Gore campaign got a tape of Bush debate prep, they believed that it was stolen from Bush headquarters. They didn't go like Ted Yoho and go like, look at our luck. And hey, we're in the middle of a campaign, we got to win, man. Let's just break the law and just use the stolen stuff, right? No, they turned it over to the FBI like you're supposed to. But Yoho, putting aside the goofiness and things he shouldn't be saying on TV, is a decent representative of the Republican philosophy, which is win at all costs by any means necessary, and we'll sort it out later. And one side plays like that, and the other side plays patty cakes. Gee, I wonder why the Republicans are routing the Democrats. And whenever the Democrats are in charge, do they ever have consequences for all the law breaking that the Republicans do? No, they just go, oh, we won't look backward, we'll look forward. Well, you know what you'll see when you look forward? This kind of cheating and another ass kicking delivered to you. So if you never punish people for breaking the law, guess what they'll do? They'll keep breaking the law. Okay, now, finally to Manchin. Okay. So this morning I interviewed Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia, and we had a very full conversation about a lot of the issues, including the minimum wage, legalization of drugs, campaign finance reform, Medicare for all. So please check it out. It's on youtube.com/TYT. But I wanted to give you one snippet of it here because I thought what he said was very interesting, and I was surprised by it. It was unexpected to me. I asked him about his donors. Let's begin to watch that portion of the interview. You voted to repeal the stream protection rule. And your top donor is First Energy that wound up getting in some degree of trouble for putting arsenic in a pond. It seems like they would benefit from the repeal of that regulation. So did that have anything to do with your vote?
No. Jenks, I know it's hard to believe, and I know it's hard for people to, I don't have any idea who gives me money. I don't solicit from the standpoint that you do this for me, quid pro quo. That's never been me. That's not my political mantra at all.
So, okay, quid pro quo, I understand as I'm about to explain there, but you don't know who your donors are. Curious, let's keep going. Senator Manchin, I want to show you a graphic here, graphic 1, and then if we can 2 as well, but let's start with 1. This is the list of your top donors. I thought you said that you don't, I understand that you said you don't do quid pro quo, that was clear.
Yeah.
But you know who your top donors are, right?
I do not.
You don't know who your top donors are?
I do not. You're showing me something I've never seen.
Okay, so this is from Open Secrets.
I know you have, Jenks, I know that is hard for anyone to believe. I do not. I never have.
Okay, well, I gotta be honest, Senator Manchin, that is hard to believe. And the reaction so far online to that has been, suffice it to say, that the audience also finds it hard to believe. Now, it might be that he doesn't know their specific names. I can't even say it. So because you had to go to fundraisers, right? Didn't you? All those people that you got donations from, you never figured out who they were from. They never told you where they were from, or they told you but you immediately forgot. And campaign donations are a huge part of why you think you've got an advantage and how Washington thinks overall, who's got more money, who's more likely to win. And by the way, that's the reality too. Unfortunately, and that's why you need campaign finance reform. Whoever has more money has a 95% chance of winning in congressional elections. So if he doesn't know who his donors are, well, he might be getting a call from them today saying, wait a minute, did I just give you all that money and you're telling me you don't even know who I am? Okay, so that's not normally how it works, but let's keep going. Your small individual contributions make up only 1% of the money coming in from 2013 to 2018 into your campaigns. So 99% big money, 1% small money. So I wonder if you're for getting big money out of politics. It's a literal question, or do you think the current system is fine?
Oh, the current system is not fine. The current system has destroyed the politics or the government as we know how we go through this process of electing people. The dark money coming in is horrible. That's not the money the candidates run. Forget about that, Jenks. That money's not going to make a difference in who wins and who loses. It's the dark money coming in that we have no control whatsoever. Citizens United is absolutely destroying our country. And it should be outlawed. It should be done away with. It should have never come into being.
So do you think there should be public financing instead of private financing of elections?
I tried public finance when I was governor of West Virginia and supported it. Absolutely.
Would you be in favor of an amendment to get money out of politics?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You talk about money being the root of all evils. In politics, it's destroying politics as we know it.
Well, that's great news. I didn't know that he was in favor of that in that sense. Look, there's this part that I disagree with him there, which is I think the money they directly contribute to politicians is also a problem. Yes, the dark money is a huge problem because they don't know where it's coming from, but the money where we know where it's coming from is also a problem. Yeah, okay, it's coming from the Koch brothers. And then you wind up doing things that help the Koch brothers. I don't mean Senator Manchin himself, although he was part of ALEC, and it's a group where they write legislation for conservative lawmakers and funded by corporations. So you know where it's coming from in that sense, and you know the results of what ALEC pushes for, which is the pro-corporate policies that are, that help their donors. So I'm worried about the dark money and the money where we can see where it's coming from. I'm worried about both of it. But the fact that he wants to do something about it, if you take him at his word at that, that's good news. So let's dive one last bit here into how he wants to deal with money in politics in his campaign and find that out. One way to go is how your primary opponent, Paula Jean Swearengin, is going, which is to say, I'm going to forsake the big money overall. I'm just only going to take small money contributions. Have you considered that for yourself, Senator Manchin?
I haven't been in control of the money we go out and campaign and we go out for solicitation like every other competitive campaign. And we're going online. I've not been online, so I need to get online to get more of the individual contributions. I'm very appreciative from $1 on up. And in the state, it's $1,000, but on the U.S. Senate or the congressional, it's $2,700 per person is the top amount per cycle. And there's not many people in West Virginia that can do anywhere near that.
Senator,
people basically they give what they desire to give.
So no, he will not be forsaking big donor money for now. Check out the rest of the interview. Lots of interesting answers in there. Get a much better sense of who Senator Manchin is. And I asked him about not only the policies, but different parts of his record and how he feels about progressives, Bernie Sanders, etc. So youtube.com/TYT. We'll put a link down below as well. But his answer on whether he knows who his donors are and whether that affects him, well, you have the answer. What you do with that answer and how much you believe it is up to you. All right, now we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, some of the earlier stories that I promised you, including once and for all showing you that the Bible and presumably hence God is pro-abortion. I have decided that I'm going to get ripped. Okay.
What?
Okay.
Like physically?
Yeah. Okay. What? You don't believe me?
I 100% don't believe you.
I will get so ripped. Here's my prediction: that someone at TYT will say, "Cenk, you've got to stop working out."
We're tired of you winning.
So you don't believe me?
Cenk, you don't have time to like do your daily duties for the main show.
Duties. You don't even have time for your daily duties. Because what you guys don't know is how great my muscles already are.
It's absolutely possible, but you can't have Leah run to the food truck to get you like 2 different types of grilled cheeses with like tater tots for lunch. Like you can't have that anymore.
Let's see what happens.
You also have to go to the gym regularly.
Let's see what happens. All I'm saying is, let's see what happens. Have I ever been wrong about a prediction? Almost ever.
Hey, Cenk, what's up?
Aaron, did they change the icon for Vine? I can't find it.
Welcome back to TYT Sports. Jason and Francis here. This is where everybody has to listen. Welcome to TYT Sports, everybody. I am your host, Francis Maxwell. Jason here. Welcome to TYT Sports. Turks and Jerks. TYT Sports. Steph Curry signed with Under Armour.
Tom Brady's mad, by the way.
Do you hear me? Back on TYT Sports. Actually, leave a link in the description box below instead of lying about leaving a link in the description box below. Editor, throw up another picture of the UK bacon. And another. And in fact, throw in another one.
Let me see your belly.
Peaceful.
You have in common with your daughter?
I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that. He said I had small hands. They're not small, are they? I never heard that one before.
right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Let me read some tweets for you. Gabby Marita writes in, if we named our leaders like medieval royalty, Trump and his idiot son would be Donald the Loser and Donald the Lesser. It's very good, Gabby. Threaded Harmony says, Senior told Junior to publish the emails so he could use them as a scapegoat for the rest of his term. Nah, I'm not sure about that. He's probably pretty pissed. Don't you see I'm loco, writes in, Republicans always pick the dumbest person. Makes me kind of glad that Palin didn't run. You're actually right about that, and there is a reason for that. It goes back to maybe my favorite interview ever at the Young Turks when I interviewed Grover Norquist in one of the conventions, maybe all the way back in 2004. Oh my God, we've been around a long time. Anyway, and when Norquist, we asked him, why did you guys, your group, Americans for Tax Reform, those are the main guys who push for tax cuts and hence the richest people in the country, why did you back George W. Bush instead of John McCain in the 2000 primaries? And he said, McCain came in, we asked him, are you gonna do what we want? And McCain was like, no, I'm gonna make up my own mind. And Bush said, yeah, sure, what do you need? Right? So if you're smart, you're gonna have independent thought. Independent thought is frowned upon. If you've got nothing in your head, they could fill it with whatever they want, and voila, you get guys like Bush and Trump who push for tax cuts and deregulation and more wars and all the things that all the donors benefit from. And for Trump, not only does he not have any thoughts in his head, he also doesn't have a moral compass. So they're like, okay, here, just do this, whatever we tell you to do. And he's like, wait, do I make money off of it? Great, then I'll do it. Yossarian Clark writes in with the simplest tweet of all time, and it has 3 exclamation points. Jenks. I actually thought Manchin calling me Jenks was a little endearing. It's a little Southern, you know. I don't know, I might be wrong, I might be making this up, but I feel like in the South I get called Jenks more.
No. The Jenks thing was fabulous. That was I watched the interview, that was my favorite part of the interview. It was so, every time he said Jenks, and it's funny because a colleague of mine, Julie, who sits next to me at work, was just like, every time he says Jenks, like I kind of cringe a little bit, and I'm like, no, it's awesome.
All right, anyway, check that out. If you remember, you got to see it live, but we'll also put it up for you guys in the members section if you didn't get to see it live. So tytnetwork.com/join. And you guys know it's you get a month free now if you sign up for membership. Use the promo code FREETYT. Finally, Blue Collar Brainiac says, Yoho doesn't need to understand the laws, he just writes them. That is depressing that he goes on national television, that Republican legislator, and tells you, oh yeah, I'd have broken the law too. He doesn't realize he's admitting that, and that guy is in charge of writing laws.
Yeah.
God help us. All right, all right, Casper, what do you got?
All right. Pew Research spent a considerable amount of time and interviewed about 2,500 people in order to tell us something that we already suspected. Democrats and Republicans don't seem to agree on much, and they especially don't agree on the issue of higher education and whether or not it has a positive impact on society. Now, there were a number of issues that were looked at during this survey, but there were some interesting outcomes that I want to share with you guys. First off, the survey found that a majority of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents, about 58%, now say that colleges and universities have a negative effect on the country, and that's actually up from 45% last year. So the most notable thing about this is that there has been a huge difference in their opinion regarding higher education in a relatively short period of time. So in September of 2015, for instance, 54% of Republicans said colleges and universities had a positive impact. 37% rated their impact negatively. So you saw about 4% jump in 2 years, but there was another stat that I'm missing at the moment, but I'll find it in just a second. So let's quickly look at Democrats and compare them, and then I'll give you the stat that I promised. So most Democrats and Democratic leaners, 72%, say colleges and universities have a positive effect. So you see that there's a pretty stark difference between Republicans and Democrats when it comes to the issue of higher education. Yeah.
So if you do effective propaganda, you could almost get Well, first of all, humans, honestly, to do anything, right? Almost anything, right? And we've seen that in horrific situations throughout history. It's not one particular class of people. But if you're authoritarian by nature, you're more likely to believe people in authority, positions of authority. Well, that makes you more of a conservative. That is part of what is a conservative. Liberals have less deference to authority. And in fact, conservatives frown upon that. They go, the liberals, they won't listen to their priests and their leaders, etc. Right? Well, then that allows you to be more susceptible to propaganda if your leaders decide to go in one direction. And in this case, they have. And so Republicans' opinions on colleges and universities have dropped by 18 points in just 2 years.
Oh, there we go. That was the stat that I was looking for. Yeah.
So that is a gigantic drop. And speaking of propaganda, if you look at this whole survey, by the way, it's not just colleges and universities. It's what we tell you about all the time. Republicans have a poor opinion of the national news media. They didn't test it in this case, but science, they have a poor opinion of science overall. But they have a very high opinion of churches and religious figures.
So do most Democrats.
That's right.
There's a difference between Democrats and Republicans, but the difference regarding religion isn't that stark, believe it or not. We'll get to that in just a second. But regarding education, I think that there is also something else at play, and you briefly touched on it. So the issue of propaganda, right? What I've noticed over the last couple years is that people in the media and politicians who are educated, who have obtained a college education, many of which have gone to Ivy League schools, are fighting tooth and nail to tear public education apart and to belittle or minimize the importance of obtaining a college education, right? And I think the whole reason why they do that is because they want to keep you stupid. And unfortunately, there is a political party that's falling for it. They want to convince you that education is bad for you, that it's actually destructive to society. But what is the #1 indicator of whether or not you're going to have great economic opportunities in the future or decent economic opportunities in the future? It's if you have an education, right? How do you protect yourself from scams and people who want to take advantage of you? If you're not ignorant, if you are educated, if you know what's really going on, how the world works, how things work around you, they want to keep you stupid. And while they do this, while they push their ridiculous anti-education propaganda out there, and while people buy into it, what are they doing? They're easily taking money out of public schools, funding these vouchers, funding these private schools that don't have to abide by educational standards at all in a lot of cases, and we're allowing them to basically destruct the one thing that really leads to a level playing field in America.
It's interesting to the point you made earlier. For Republicans that make less than $30,000, 46% that say that colleges and universities have a positive effect. So relative to the others, it's actually a high number. For Republicans who make over $30,000, that number drops all the way down to 32% saying positive effect. So if you don't have money as a Republican, you think, well, going to college might be a good thing, the way to improve myself, right?
Right.
For the Republicans who do have money, they go, nah, no, college is a bad thing.
Right, and look, there's so many caveats and so many nuances to what we're talking about, because look, there is a huge downside to getting a higher education right now, right? You go into debt, and that's something that needs to be reformed. It's something that needs to change. That doesn't mean that higher education is a bad thing. It means that the way that we're funding it, the way that we're charging students, that's a bad thing. That absolutely does need to be reformed. But when Republicans are criticizing higher education, they're not criticizing it because they feel bad for the amount of money that students have to take out for loans. They're criticizing it because they think, oh, they go there. Ann Coulter has a chapter in her book, which I'm unfortunately having to read because I'm about to debate her, right? And she talks about how the only purpose for higher education is to churn out social justice warriors. That's it, that's all they do.
She went to Cornell.
She went to Cornell.
Come on.
Don't let her treat you like you're stupid. Okay, she got her higher education. She knows the way the world works. She and other Republicans, conservatives, they know how the world works. If you don't have any education, if you don't have higher education, your chances of earning a decent income in this country, very slim, okay?
Yeah, well, so Ann Coulter and all the other conservatives can't fill your head with junk if you already learned something about the world.
Right.
So whatever you do, don't trust colleges, don't trust the media, don't trust science, don't trust anything that brings you facts. If you went to a real university, you might not then go to Trump University, and that would cost Donald Trump some money.
Yeah, well, they want to scam you and they want to manipulate you, and the easiest way to do that is to keep you uneducated. All right, so let's move on to other portions of this survey that were super interesting. So let's go to graphic 4. Republicans, by about 8 to 1, 85% to 10%, say the news media has a negative effect. These views have changed little in the past few years. So they've always been skeptical, in some cases hateful toward the media, but it's up from 76% 2 years ago and 68% in 2010. So the number of Republicans who think media has a negative impact on society has increased.
Yeah, so on the media, I'm split because we're very frustrated with the media, and I think that they, as you've heard me say 1,000 times, they have an establishment bias. They don't admit to it. That's why they've lost credibility both on the left and the right. I was surprised to find out some Democrats now have a better image of the media. Unfortunately, I think it's probably because of the nonstop Trump bashing. So I think they look at it and go, that media I can live with. That's my guess.
I think that guess is right. Yeah.
Oh, is right?
Is right. Yeah, because I mean, I watch a lot more cable news than you do, right?
Yeah, I don't watch it at all.
But also, it goes further than cable news. You know, the New York Times, the Washington Post, while these are not perfect publications and they've made their mistakes and we've criticized them for it in the past, all of a sudden you are seeing this reemergence of investigative journalism, and it's because they want to bring Trump down, right? Maybe you don't agree with what their underlying intentions are, but hey, all of a sudden we have this reemergence of investigative journalism and it's attacking a specific political party, a specific administration. I think that's why Democrats are now more favorable toward the media. So about as many Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents think the news media has a positive effect, 48%. As negative, 46% impact on the way things are going in the country.
44 and 46. So it's still even with the improved ratings, it still tests negative even for Democrats. But as again, I always want to tell you guys, we're not here to break the media like the Republicans are. We're here to fix the media. It's a giant difference.
Yep.
Okay, you want to go to the Arkansas story?
Yeah, let's move on. Lawmakers in Arkansas have passed a bill that would essentially force a woman who would like to get an abortion to speak with the person who impregnated her and come to an agreement about what should be done with the fetal remains. Now, this is another one of these personhood bills. It was something that was proposed earlier this year, and now, unfortunately, it has passed. Let's go to graphic 10. So it's HB 1566, and it includes aborted fetuses into the act, which means that both the mother and the father of the fetus will have to agree on what to do with the fetal remains. So what is HB 1566? So it's basically a provision on a law that already existed in the state. It's known as the Arkansas Final Disposition Rights Act of 2009, and that just said that certain family members have to agree on what to do with the body of a deceased family member. Now, the provision has been made to include fetal parts or a fetus. And so basically a woman has to go to the guy and be like, I'm gonna get an abortion. I guess I need to get first of all, permission to have this abortion. And then secondly, what are we gonna do with this fetus?
Okay, finally, back under our thumbs. I mean, I care about the life of the fetus. So this is, of course, a way of controlling people. And Not only do they have to get permission, but this could also apply to women who were impregnated by abusive partners or through sexual assault.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you were sexually assaulted or if you were impregnated because of a rape, you would still have to abide by this law. Keep in mind that Arkansas, it's a conservative state, so they already have some significant restrictions on reproductive rights. They only have about 4 abortion clinics. Women have to get anti-abortion counseling before they go through with the procedure. After the counseling, they have a 48-hour waiting period, and then they can go through with the abortion. But it's just interesting because, I mean, look, you got to give credit to these lawmakers because they care about life, Cenk. They care about children. They want to protect these children, right? Which is why the state of Arkansas has approximately 22,000 homeless kids. They really care about kids.
No, but Anna, to be fair, they're already out of the womb, so they don't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Life only applies inside the womb, which then of course brings up me to my favorite topic. So look, this is Sharia law. I'm not interested in what your religion thinks of abortion. We need to make laws based on reasonable ideas that we all agree to. That's called a democracy, a secular democracy. But no, you want to impose your religious views on us. So it is now incumbent upon me to correct your religious views. You are wrong about what the Bible says. The Bible is pro-abortion. God is pro-abortion. So let me read it to you. These are not my words, this is the words from the Bible. You can look it up yourself in any Bible you find. Numbers 5:11 through 22, okay? Now this is gonna take a while, but it's good, so buckle up. Then the Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelites and say to them, if a man's wife goes astray and is unfaithful to him, so that another man has sexual relations with her, and this is hidden from her husband, and her impurity is undetected, since there is no witness against her and she has not been caught in the act, and if feelings of jealousy come over her husband, and he suspects his wife and she is impure, or if he is jealous and suspects her even though she is not impure, then he is to take his wife to the priest. Let's see what the priest does. He must also take an offering of 1/10 of an ephah of barley flour on her behalf. He must not pour olive oil on it or put incense on it. Well, of course not, because it is a grain offering for jealousy, a reminder offering to draw attention to wrongdoing. Okay, let's pause for 1 second there. So this stuff's in the Bible. Have you guys been doing this? Have you been taking your ephah or whatever that is, but not pouring the olive oil on it or incense, because it is an offering for jealousy? This is to cure the jealousy of the husband, because he's the one that matters. At the end of this particular provision at Numbers, they say, now remember, the husband is the one that matters. What happens to the wife is not important, okay? So that's a different portion of Numbers. Go read it for yourself. Okay, but don't pour the olive oil on there. You guys really believe this? You believe this? But if you do, this is part where you might be a little surprised. As we continue here in Numbers, the priest shall bring her and have her stand before the Lord. Then he shall take some holy water in a clay jar and put some dust from the tabernacle floor into the water, of course. After the priest has had some woman stand before the Lord, he shall loosen her hair and place in her hands the reminder offering, the grain offering for jealousy, while he himself holds the bitter water that brings a curse. Then the woman is to say, amen, so be it.
What?
Wait, so, okay. So the woman is supposed to say, oh, the cursed water, great. I'm glad you have done a curse. You guys believe this. You believe that there is a curse. How come you guys never do any of this? So it's funny how what you apply from the Bible and what you don't apply from the Bible. This is in the Bible, but you guys never do it, right? I haven't seen the curses yet. So let's find out what the result is. Hey, so save graphic 13, that's at the end, okay? So graphic 14a, this is continuing in the right order now in Numbers. Then the priest shall put the woman under oath and say to her, if no other man has had sexual relations with you and you have not gone astray and become impure while married to your husband, may this bitter water that brings a curse not harm you. But if you have gone astray while married to your husband and you have made yourself impure by having sexual relations with a man other than your husband, here the priest is to put the woman under this curse. May the Lord cause you to become cursed among your people when he makes your womb miscarry and your abdomen swell. may this water that brings a curse enter your body so that your abdomen swells and your womb miscarries. I told you, God, the Lord himself, is pro-abortion. If you think that your wife cheated on you and you need a jealousy offering, well, the husband must be appeased. Make sure that you take a pinch from the tabernacle floor, create this potion, and make her drink it. And if she has actually cheated on you, God will make sure that it is aborted. I didn't say it, the Bible says it. Now, if you're a good Bible-fearing Christian, you better be pro-abortion right this minute. And finally, the end of the numbers that I promised you there. Quote, the husband will be innocent of any wrongdoing, but the woman will bear the consequences of her sin.
So is tabernacle floor what they use in like that abortion pill?
It could be, I don't know, yeah.
What is a tabernacle floor? Like,
apparently it's abortifacient, which I didn't know.
Wow.
Okay, so they're like, oh, here you go.
Yeah, that was really creepy.
Yeah.
And not enjoyable at all, but I'm glad you shared it.
Yeah, well, look, read the Bible. There's a lot of creepy stuff in there. And don't blame me, I didn't write the Bible. So if you got a beef to pick with abortion, pick it with the Lord, because he is definitely in favor of it.
Yeah, let's take a break and just let that digest for a second.
Okay.
All right, we'll come back with more.
I hope your abdomen doesn't swell while it's digesting. Okay, we'll be right back.
Economy has never been better. Monetary policy is spectacular.
Everybody thought Jamie Dimon was the king of Wall Street last week. Well, it might be Ken Lewis now. He takes the crown. The best sales force out there is Merrill Lynch, and now it goes to BofA. It's pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing. Lewis now. Buying opportunity.
I do think this is a buying opportunity. We're going to see a stabilization and just a tremendous snapback.
The rally will be jaw-dropping.
The Occupy Wall Street movement is not a spontaneous protest against economic inequality.
This is what we mean by the establishment press.
It is a well-thought-out campaign.
To bring down the infrastructure of this country.
The embarrassment is that I'm given credibility in this world because of the disappointment that the public has in what the news media does.
I'm the former chairman of the Veterans Committee, and I've learned a little bit about the cost of war. What the president is trying to do, and I agree with him, is to do everything that we can without going to war.
So what do you say to your critics? I'm talking about Democratic critics who say, you know what, he's really just a socialist pacifist.
I very rarely read in any coverage of Bernie that he's a socialist.
Bernie Sanders is a socialist, for God's sake.
Most analysts are saying that Hillary Clinton's going to win in a landslide.
I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president.
We've got Trump at 279, 259.
Wait a minute.
I'm winning the presidency. I know you don't believe that. We're not going to be polite anymore. You know what we're going to do? We're going to fight back.
Fight for a free and independent media. We're done with politeness. We fight back.
We are going to put together the best investigative reporting team in the country.
You like Jordan Chariton in the field, challenging Democrats? He's the one that took down Donald Brazil. Thank God for that.
You know, give me 10 Jordan Charitons. Look at the damage I could do.
TYT will give you the four horsemen.
And we will let them gallop. Help unleash real journalism in the country.
We don't need anybody else anymore but you guys. TYTnetwork.com/go. This is going to be amazing.
Hey, Cenk, what's up?
Aaron, my VCR keeps flashing 12, but it's not even midnight. Go.
Back on the Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you, or Jenks. Fun for everybody.
But no Jenks.
Your mama writes in, demonizing education is a win-win for Republicans. Rich don't have to pay you or pay for you to get an education, and you are more susceptible to their propaganda. Oh, I'm sorry, she meant pay you as in like then you get less income, right? And you get the propaganda. Great point, your mama. Esmeralda Coccolini writes in, remember the original sin of Adam and Eve, eating from the tree of knowledge. Learning things is dangerous to radical Christians. Exactly right. By the way, it's true of all the religions, of course, not just Christianity. And Jeremy Kohler writes in, you know that most Christians would say about Numbers 5:11 through 22, well, that was in the Old Testament, we don't follow that now. Oh, great, so that means you don't follow, you don't believe in the Garden of Eden. So we're gonna stop this nonsense conversation about how the earth is 6,000 years old. You don't believe in Noah's Ark. You don't believe, by the way, that gay people are living in sin. Because I think all of the stuff against a man shall not lie with another man is all in the Old Testament. So we're done with all that, right? So, you like to pick and choose. You like certain parts of the Old Testament, so you just kind of want to keep it. And other parts, you're like, oh, that's unfortunate because that is a monstrous, horrific thing. And I'd like to pretend that it doesn't exist. And so, and by the way, did God make a mistake? Did he bring down the Old Testament? And then like 500 years later, be like, oh, my bad, man, that was just the first draft. Now I'm sending Jesus now, and that whole thing about abortion, I was just messing around with you. Instead, I'll just put some vague stuff in here about how life is awesome, and later you can interpret that to mean that I'm against abortion. Whatevs. I thought God was infallible, that's weird.
Yeah, I wanna talk about flat earthers and lizard people in the postgame today.
Oh, excellent, finally truth. All right, let's go forward.
All right. Police in Georgia have reopened an investigation after a video involving alleged police brutality went viral and provided some new evidence in a case involving a cop who was beating a homeless woman with a baton. Now, the homeless woman is identified as Katie McCrary. However, the police official that you're about to see in this video, which is graphic, has not been identified. He is anonymous, but this took place on June 4th. And apparently the officer had gone to a Chevron station in response to a complaint about a woman begging for money. She's a homeless woman, she's at a Chevron station asking for money, which I think all of us have experienced at some point. And usually they're not dangerous people, but nonetheless, the owner of the Chevron station ended up calling the cops and things got violent. Now the cop claims that the woman tried to push him out of the way when he arrived on the scene. And then that warranted what you're about to see.
So let me just give a tiny bit more detail there, Anna, before we go to the video. So McCrary says she attempted to push me out of the way and walk out of the door, which I would think is mission accomplished. The guy called you to get rid of her, right? And she's leaving. Boy, this feels like it could have been resolved a lot easier. And so in all these cases, I always feel like, look, it's not an easy job. I mean, you got to deal with a homeless person who's not listening to you. That is not easy. So, and he says later she tried to reach out and grab his badge, grab the vest and the radio. Now that's what he put in his report.
Right.
But I'll tell you one other thing he put in his report after you watch the video.
Yeah, exactly. Let's watch the video, and then I want to give you his detailed report so you kind of see some of the inconsistencies. By the way, warning, the video is difficult to watch, so if you're uncomfortable, you should look away now. Let's take a look.
Hey, Katie, stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting.
Get on your stomach. Get on your stomach.
Stop resisting.
Get on your stomach. Get on your stomach. Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. Just stop. Put your hands behind your back.
Stop, Katie. Stop, Katie. Stop resisting, Katie. Stop resisting. Stop resisting, Katie. Put your hands behind your back, Katie. I'm gonna shoot you. Let it go. I'm gonna shoot you.
No, please don't shoot him.
Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back, Katie. Stop it now.
Put your hands behind your back. I am trying. Put your hands behind your back. What did I do? What did I do?
All right. So I should note that she does have a mental illness. It's unclear what that mental illness is exactly, but a local news station spoke to a dozen individuals in the area who are familiar with her, who know her. They all said that she wasn't a problem, she never posed any type of risk, and she did have a history of mental illness. She is homeless, and again, she was there asking for money. Now,
guys, look. It's super tough to deal with a mentally ill homeless person. Nobody's saying it's easy, but you just saw that video, man. I don't know. I couldn't do that. Could you beat a mentally ill woman like that? She said she was going to leave. You know, did he feel like that was a disrespect of his authority? I don't know what the station manager asked him to do. Did he ask for her to be arrested? I don't know. But you would think that, hey, she's bothering people asking for money. She says she's leaving, great, wonderful. We could have left it at that. I can't stomach doing that to somebody, let alone a mentally ill person. I mean, if they were gonna cause violence on others, I get it, man, that's what cops are for, right? But a mentally ill woman who is not listening to your orders, you couldn't figure out, like you thought what, like she's disrespecting you? Not everything is disrespect. People are different, and if they called you because she's not able to respond to those requests, there might be a reason for that. Don't we do any training in this country? Yes, there are mentally ill people. Yes, some percentage of homeless people are mentally ill. No, the correct answer is not beating the living crap out of them.
So maybe I missed something, because I was under the impression that a cop can only open fire on someone who poses an imminent threat, right? And he said in that video very clearly, and he got a response from the people that were there, put your hands behind your back or I'm going to shoot you. And then 2 people were like, no, please don't shoot her, why are you gonna shoot her? Like, is she posing a threat to you? And maybe I'm wrong, maybe that's not the policy. Maybe the new policy is if someone's annoying you and isn't listening to your orders in the fashion that you think is appropriate, then you get to open fire.
By the way, if you shoot and kill someone, that could be murder. But if you threaten to shoot someone, that's already a crime. That's an assault. Now, if
not for cops.
Yeah. Now, if you said that to a cop, you'd definitely be arrested. Hey, don't do X, otherwise I'm going to shoot you. Right? That's assault, and even if you never pulled a gun or anything like that. Now, cops got a job where they have to threaten violence sometimes. I know that it's slightly different rules, but it can't be that if you're under no imminent threat at all. Like nobody thought that woman was somehow magically going to kill the cop, right? So threatening to kill her or shoot her, which would kill her, certainly could, is assault. Let alone the other obvious assault that's happening on the tape.
So this video is new, which is why officials have decided to reopen the investigation into this case. They had already decided that he had done no wrongdoing and they wanted to move on. But this video went viral and they're like, okay, well, we have new evidence. We have to look at this again. Now, I want to give you the details of the police report that this unidentified cop had filed, so you kind of have a sense of his side of the story and what he believed happened. So in the incident report dated June 5th, a day after this took place, the officer said when he arrived at the gas station, McCrary attempted to push me out of the way and walk out the door. Okay, more words were exchanged and McCrary reached out and grabbed my badge, and after being warned not to touch him, she, quote, grabbed my vest and radio, according to his incident report. He said he used his baton on her legs, forearms, and one strike inadvertently struck the side of her head as she was moving around. So that was his take. I think it's a little different from what we saw in the video, but again, I mean, it's being investigated. We'll see how it turns out, but it's an internal affairs investigation. And I mean, we have some precedent on how things like that turn out.
And in this case, we also have a quote from the DeKalb County Police Department. They said in a statement after watching the video, quote, the narrative in the officer's report appears to be consistent with the video.
Yeah.
So now, to be fair, he didn't say he inadvertently struck her. He said he inadvertently struck her head. But the rest of it was not inadvertent. It was very clear what he was doing. And look, it's not just about that this guy's a bad guy. That's too easy an explanation. And I don't even know that he's a bad guy. I mean, I know that this was a bad act. I do know that the training is don't ever, ever let anyone disrespect you. And so in reality, what they need to do, and some police departments across the country are doing this, is bring in mental health experts. So yes, it's gonna take longer, it's gonna take a bigger part of your day. But hey, I need backup in this case, and the backup is not more forces to get even more violent. I need someone who's a trained professional who can come and help me deal with this person who is clearly mentally ill, rather than my way of dealing with him, which is what I've been taught. Unfortunately, in most of the police departments in the country, is take out a baton and beat the crap out of them until they are made to listen to you. And those are the cases where they don't get shot.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to a somewhat fun story, shall we? All right. Beginning July 1st of this year, Nevada allowed the sale of recreational marijuana. However, and this is the fun part, apparently people wanted to get their hands on marijuana so much that about 2 weeks later, the state ran out. And now the governor is essentially calling a state of emergency in order to get enough pot to help serve medicinal patients in the state. It's amazing. So on Friday, Governor Brian Sandoval endorsed the department's call for a statement of emergency, which would allow for more licensed distributors. Now, here's the interesting part of the story. Keep in mind that there are all sorts of states that have legalized marijuana for both recreational or medicinal use, right? Or both. However, Nevada is the only state that has this temporary law that only allows alcohol wholesalers to have exclusive rights to move marijuana from growers to retailers. And it's a temporary court order that's extended in June by a Carson City district judge. So why? Why do you want alcohol wholesalers to be the only ones who can distribute the marijuana from the growers to the dispensaries, right?
There's an official reason and then there's a real reason. The official reason is, look, this product just became legal in this state, so it could be dangerous. So we're gonna need people who know how to transport things and do this for a living to transport it. The real reason is the alcohol guys who give money to the politicians go, hey, these guys are muscling in on our racket, so we gotta do something about this. And my guess is, and this is a guess to be fair, that they went and talked to the politicians and the politicians were like, well, how about if we let you run the transportation part of it so you're cut in on the business?
It's so pathetic because they know that as soon as people get their hands on that weed, weird timing for a cough.
Yeah.
But as soon as they get their hands on marijuana, I mean, it's just people who smoke marijuana usually aren't heavy drinkers, right? I feel like
it's cheaper. It's way cheaper to be.
It's cheaper. You're more likely to do it at home, right? So you're not going to bars and stuff like that. It's actually safer since you're not going to bars and then potentially drunk driving. But nonetheless, the alcohol industry has been fighting aggressively against legalizing marijuana. They have been spending a ton of money on it because they care about their bottom line. And it's pathetic.
But to be fair to them, I mean, as a business, they want to maximize profits. And when states legalize drugs, alcohol sales do go down.
They do go down.
So, and if we didn't have legalized bribery in this country, you'd be like, okay, well, that's a sad day for you, make a better product. But since we don't have real capitalism in this country, instead we have crony capitalism, they go, this is the same thing Tesla has to deal with. Like the old car dealers come in and go, it's this damn car, we can't compete with it.
Yeah.
Pass a law saying that they're not allowed to sell it. And so that happened in New Jersey and a couple other places in the way that they sell it, right? So in this case, it's not just the alcohol companies, it's also the drug companies, the pharmaceutical companies. Their sales also go down. By the way, opioid abuse also goes down in states that legalize marijuana. But the drug companies think that's my product you're abusing and buying more of. So they also are fighting drug legalization. But as you can see, apparently the American people want it. They really, really want it. It sold out immediately.
In less than 2 weeks.
My favorite part of the story is that the governor had to declare the emergency. Emergency, emergency, we're out of pot. Somebody go get me some weed.
Yeah, people were lined up, excited, just waiting at a dispensary for the clock to strike and for them to be able to buy recreational marijuana legally, which is, it is exciting and it is great, especially when you consider all of the collateral damage that came about because of the prohibition on marijuana. But I don't know why I want to share this comparison. Maybe it's stupid, but imagine if digital media was considered illegal and the only way to legalize it was if cable news networks had to produce our content, right? All right, we're gonna legalize digital media, but CNN's gotta produce your show, right? That's you know what I mean? You think CNN's gonna produce a good show for us?
So, well, look, real quick, it's not that far off from what we have in China. So in China, political content videos, and by the way, also porn is not allowed. We covered that on the show last week. And so that form of digital media is banned. But if you want to use digital media, you have to go with one of the large companies, large media companies in China that are pre-approved by the government. And so they know that they won't do anything the government doesn't want. So your analogy actually does exist. It's in China, and it's of course limits freedom tremendously, and it's done to protect the powerful over there. And same thing over here, done to protect the powerful, when in fact freedom means the freedom to also smoke marijuana, and 60% of Americans want it. So the real emergency is in states where pot is not legal. Okay, guys, for the Sirius Satellite Radio audience, we're out of time. Are we out of time for everything?
It's up to you, we can do more.
Okay, let's do 2 more stories for the online audience, so we'll be back in a second to do that. But you can catch the whole show ad-free if you go to tytnetwork.com/join and use promo code FREETYT to get a free trial membership for a whole month, okay? So, no, not the bye-bye yet. We'll do that for the online audience. We'll be right back for those guys. Back on the Young Turks. I'm just laughing at what we're talking about. All right, member shout outs today are James Cool and Andy Phelps. And guys, Valar Morghulis, Game of Thrones is coming. Anna and I are going to do a preview show tomorrow, actually.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not necessarily going up tomorrow, but mainly what I want to tell you about is we're going to start doing the Sunday reviews again. So watch Game of Thrones with us, and then go, and then we'll do the review immediately thereafter. So all of it is going to be live on facebook.com/whattheflick. So that's, of course, 10 p.m. Eastern is when the review starts for you guys. So that starts this Sunday, July 17th. Okay, what's next, Anna?
All right, let me just prep this. The opioid epidemic is hitting certain parts of the country hard, and Buffalo, New York is no exception. In fact, Buffalo area health officials blamed 300 deaths on opioid overdoses in 2016, and that was up from 127 2 years earlier. This is just one part of one state in the country. And so officials and judges in the area realized we need to handle this in a different way. We need to stop criminalizing people and give them an option to rehabilitate themselves. And so they took on an approach 2 months ago that actually has proven to be pretty successful. So the city is experimenting with the nation's first opioid crisis intervention court, which can get users into treatment within hours of their arrest instead of days. It requires them to check in with a judge every day for a month instead of once a week, and puts them on strict curfews. So keep in mind that this is not an easy program. It's pretty strict. Acceptance into the opioid crisis court means detox, inpatient or outpatient care, 8 p.m. curfews, and at least 30 consecutive days of in-person meetings with the judge.
So I love it. It's way past time. There's no reason to treat these people as criminals. And then of course now the media that Buffalo started doing this, they were like, wait a minute, yeah, these guys aren't criminals. They just need help, right?
Yeah.
Of course. And so they started talking about how, well, look, these are all non-violent guys who don't have a track record of doing crime. So I guess this makes sense. It makes sense everywhere. So I'm super happy that they're trying it in Buffalo, and I hope that the program spreads. But we shouldn't be locking people up for any kind of drug abuse in the first place. It's not to say that drug abuse is great, of course not. But it's something that needs to be treated, not something that private prisons can make money off of, or, by the way, have all of us pay for their imprisonment and make their situation worse, let alone the core of the issue, which is why are we taking their freedom away when this is not something that is a crime against the rest of us. The society needs to put you away for so we can be safe. Exactly. No, it's something that you need treatment for.
So as I mentioned, it started 2 months ago, and the Justice Department actually allocated $300,000 for this program in the form of a grant, and the results are already pretty promising. So 2 months in, none of the 80 people who agreed to the program had overdosed, though about 10 warrants had been issued for missed appearances. And keep in mind, they have to appear in front of a judge every day for a month. And so it doesn't surprise me that some people might have missed an appearance. I'm not excusing it, but if that's the worst outcome from this experiment, then I'll take it. And there have been a number of people who have testified about their experience so far, and they're like, look, I really wanted to get better, and now there's a program that's actually really helping me instead of demonizing or antagonizing me.
Yeah, and one guy had missed a court appearance, and they brought him in handcuffs, and he said, look, I really appreciate this program, because if I didn't have to report in every day, you wouldn't have come get me, and I might have taken fentanyl and died in the streets. Mm-hmm. So we needed different ways to solve the drug problem altogether. So I'm a little frustrated that it took the opioid situation for us to realize maybe we shouldn't be imprisoning our fellow citizens that need help. I wish we'd realized this decades ago before we started mass incarceration and locked away millions of people. And I hope that we go to address that injustice as well. Mm-hmm. I don't want to just have people rotting in jail for taking drugs, just like these folks took drugs. But for God's sake, let's at least get on the right road now, and Buffalo is a good step in that direction.
All right, final story for you guys. After a domestic. All right, a smart home device alerted authorities to a violent domestic dispute. And as a result, the individual who was threatening his girlfriend with a gun was successfully arrested. So to give you details on this, and I want to just be clear that it's unknown which home smart device it was. Eduardo Barrios was home-sitting at the residence with his girlfriend and their daughter. Barrios allegedly pulled a gun on his girlfriend when they got into an argument and asked her, "Did you call the sheriffs?" A smart device in the home apparently heard, "Call the sheriffs," and proceeded to call the sheriffs.
Oops.
So the cops arrived, and apparently it took some time to negotiate with him so he would put the gun down and let his girlfriend go. But in this case, this smart home device, which apparently is always listening, managed to help save someone's life, or potentially help save someone's life, which is great, but there's a downside to this as well.
Yeah, it's a little ironic that it's called a smart device when it got the situation totally wrong. He's like, "Did you call the sheriff?" And she's like, "Okay, I will now call the sheriff." That's not what I said, dummy. Okay, no, look, great result in this case, but I am 1000% against this overall. this is a good story wrapped in a bad story. So they explain all the devices, doesn't matter who makes them, all those smart devices at home are always listening. So no, thank you. Maybe the new school is who cares about privacy? Let's all do freaky stuff in front of everybody and put it on the internet, and you get to find out every word I said and everything I did. And look, I lead an incredibly boring life, so my smart device would be tremendously bored, right? Can I call the sheriff just because we're not having any fun here? But as a general philosophy, no, maybe I'm old school, but I like my privacy. I don't want a device recording me nonstop every minute of the day inside my house. That's crazy.
Yeah. Look, I'm completely with you on this, and I know I'm probably gonna sound super ignorant because I don't have one of these devices and I'm not really sure of everything that they do, but I'm okay flicking a light switch on my own, right? Like, I'm okay turning the TV on by myself. Like, I don't need a home device to like do easy things for me.
Yeah, look, now I'll go.
And I'm not judging people who have it. Like, I get it. It's like the new cool tech thing to have, right? But you gotta, do a cost benefit analysis, and I did it, and I just feel like my privacy is more important than having a device flick a light switch for me.
It's not even close. Look, I'll go Grandpa Jenko. I'm so old school that I had a TV where I didn't have a remote control. I had to get up and switch the channel.
That's uncalled for.
I know, I know, it seems unbelievable, right? But I did. And but so yes on remote controls, and then let's draw the line, because it works. The up button and the down button works. It is, I think, harder to go, okay, Andrea, move the channel up. No, up, Andrea, oh, for God's sake, up, right? That is harder than just push the goddamn button, right?
Yeah.
So look, if you want to give up all of your privacy, have at it, Hoss, but it's not for me. And in this case, it was such a self-fulfilling prophecy. He's so worried that she's gonna call the sheriff that he accidentally called the sheriff.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. Now, what we've all been looking forward to today. No, not the Joe Manchin interview. No, not the show where we found out Donald Trump Jr. is probably going to jail. But what Anna thinks of lizard people and aliens, that's in the postgame. TYTnetwork.com/join. Bye-bye.